It's a new day aboard Little Bear, and I've got a number of tasks that I need to complete. And rather than tell you all about them up front, I think I'll just show you as I do them. So come on up to the front with me and I'll show you what I'm doing up there. I continue to work on the deck box. I have, as I mentioned before, put fairing filler over the divots that I ground out when I was removing the old non-skid. And I need to fair this out, and I'm going to sand everything in prep for paint, and then I'm going to paint it. So that's job number one today. Stop sitting there. Get busy. As promised, the update on the deck box. I've sanded it flat. I have not drilled out the holes for the hinges, but I have primed it. That's not finishing paint, that's just primer. And it looks okay. The finish on this piece looks a little bit rough, but it doesn't really matter. I'm going to put non-skid for the most part on this to cover up the imperfections. So it was never meant to be a glossy, shiny finished job. I just wanted to get it sort of semi-finished and painted so I could put the hinges in, which I will do once the paint is finished. Next on my agenda is a job at the back of the boat. Let's go have a look. The job I'm going to attempt now is to install the hasps for the rear hatch on which I am sitting. Now the problem with the hasps on the rear hatch is the amount of room that I have to put screws into the deck side of the hasp fitting. Take a look. I only got maybe 4 inches. That's where the screws have to go right there. And my drill, of course, is the same size as most drills. There's no way I can get it in there. So I have come up with what I hope is an excellent solution to the problem. I spent $39 for this piece of hardware. Ta-da! The right-angled drill head. And that gives me lots of room with room to spare to drill my little itty-bitty holes. So I'll get doing that right now. You know, it never ceases to surprise me how little jobs that you'd think would take maybe a half an hour or so take forever. This is one of them. I have managed to get the hasps installed, and my handy-dandy right angle attachment worked very well. It's a little awkward because it's when it's mounted in the drill, it flops around. So you need one hand on the drill and one hand on the attachment, and then you have to guide the screw in somehow. It's a little bit awkward, but I got it done. Have a look. Nice and snug. And I'll put either a lock or a D-ring through there. Probably just a D-ring. There's not a whole lot that's valuable in this hatch. I've got my propane locker in there and winch handles, that kind of thing. So it's not super critical for security, but I wanted to have it nailed down for when I'm actually sailing. I don't want the lid flying off and going overboard. That would sink immediately. It's fairly heavy. It is fiberglass. So that's another job off the list. I've got one more job I want to get done today, and I'll show you that right now. So we're back to dealing with this bad boy, my tach. Right now the engine is not running, so there's no power to it, but it's showing about 400 RPM. Once the engine starts, or once I put power to the system, the tach goes to 0, and then the engine starts, and it comes up to where it should be for running. But I am not confident that this thing is synchronized properly. When it's on an idle, it's showing about where it is right now, about 500, which I think is a bit low. And when I push it up to the point where the engine isn't shaking, it looks like it's about 1,000 RPM, but it should be about 800. So I need to figure out what the actual RPM of the engine is. And to do that, I need a secret weapon. Let's go have a look at my secret weapon. This is my secret weapon. It is a handheld tach. It's a laser emitter, and it responds to reflective tape. You can put this stuff on anything that rotates and shine the light at it, and it will tell you exactly how fast it's spinning. So that's what I'm going to do. Stay tuned. So here's how it works. You put a little piece of reflective tape, it's a self-adhesive, on one of the rotating shafts of the engine, and then start the engine. And it will tell you, the handheld tach will tell you how fast your engine is turning. So I'm going to fire this thing up and see how fast it's turning as compared to the tach on the instrument panel. Well, I was correct. The tach on the instrument panel is not accurate as compared to the handheld tach, which is measuring off the front of the engine. Interestingly, I've got two different readings on the engine. I'll show you why. This is the new alternator I put in, and I put the reflective tape on the fan of the alternator, but it's driven by belts that run over pulleys. So I thought, well, I wonder if I get a different reading if I put a piece of reflective tape on the actual crankshaft, which I did. There's the tape right down there. And when I measure this one, I get 2,000 RPM. When I measure this one, I get 1,000 RPM, which means that one is turning twice as fast as that one. Which kind of makes sense, because that's a generator. You want it to spin up as fast as it can. I'm really not sure which one is the correct one, but I do know that the tach on the instrument panel is registering about 500 RPM, so I'm going to see if I can adjust that at least up to 1,000, which is close to where it should be. The digital tachometer reads the crankshaft at about 987 RPM, and the analog tach on the instrument panel I have now adjusted down to just a hair below 1,000 RPM. So I believe my tach now is correct, which makes me happy. And that is the third and final task for today. I'm going to button up the instrument panel, and then I am going to clean up and go home, and we'll be back at it tomorrow for more fun and games. So in the meantime, fair winds, following seas. God bless.